All right, so this is a mixture of 1 part clay, 1 part sand, and maybe like a quarter to half part straw, finely chopped. And all I'm doing here is I'm trying to figure out if I can use this as a patch for these cracks. I'm putting it on 2 different drying stages. Well, actually 3 different types of drying stages and 2 different textures, I guess you could say. So there's a big crack here. I patched it using a trowel, just scooped some up and smeared it on it and made sure to, really try and push it into this. There's a big deep crack in here. So I pushed it into a crack and I'm gonna let this set. This white area is all dry. This wall's been drying for a while. This is the first one I did. And as you can see, it's got cracks everywhere. So I'm gonna try and patch it with this plaster, and you can see this is already dried up considerably. I put this on maybe 5 minutes ago, and that's because this wall behind it is dry, very dry. This patch up here is on parts of the wall that are still wet. So this area down here is wet. This wall right here is wet. There's some dry spots right there. So you can kind of get an idea of where the really dry areas are, where the really wet areas are. And what I'm trying to test is how well I can apply it without having to wet the wall down, and what would the results be. So it's very easy to apply dry, and it's very easy to apply wet. What I'm hoping is that I can just let this fully dry out. I can plaster over it again, and I won't need to wet it all down, which will help with the drying time. So less drying time, I can get more coats onto this wall at a quicker rate. So I'm hoping that this dries well and it doesn't crack. If it does, then I'll go ahead and wait for the rest of this wall to fully dry out. If not, then this and this should be representative of me wetting down the wall after it's dried, wetting down the wall again, and then replastering with this. So if that doesn't crack, but this does, then I will know to wet the entire wall here and then put plaster on it. I also am putting this plaster on top of this straw because I can't find a good way to really add a lot of cob, or the plaster that I was doing that I made this wall with isn't really working. So I'm going with straw in this. All this other is this right here is just sand and clay. That's it. And I was able to put it on all the straw walls, and they came out really well. I'm hoping that this plaster coat will help seal these cracks. But I'm also going to use this plaster coat, and right now it is adhering to this straw well. I have not wet this straw down. I think this plaster is really wet, so I'm hoping that it will just stick to it. If not, then I will try and wet it down and add the plaster that way. But these are just some tests that I'm doing right now because I am still new at this, and I really want to figure out the best way to apply plaster, cob, all that stuff. So I will try and add some to this as well, but I'm fairly sure that this wall will be very easy to apply plaster to, and the only thing that I'm really going to need to make sure is, do I need to wet it down or not? So I'll add some to that. We'll see how that dries as well, and I will give you some finished results on how everything looks and how the experiment went. But hopefully this helps you whenever you are looking to make your own cob accent wall, any type of plaster, earthenware plaster, or earthen plaster to help you seal these cracks that you might make for your accent wall, or for just a bigger cob wall in general like I'm doing. But yeah, if you guys like this, please do not forget to like it. Send me a comment letting me know what you want to see next, and I appreciate you guys. Till next time. All right, guys, this is the next day, and I do not see any cracking. This is actually pretty solid now. Obviously, still no cracking on the wall that was wet, but pretty surprised because the dry wall, I would definitely have thought that it would have cracked by now. I mean, it was dry when I put it on there. It's been dry today. It's getting drier. And this still isn't cracking, so I think maybe the straw that I put into the plaster has helped it out immensely. There's no cracking on. This is still pretty wet, but this entire wall is still pretty wet. But completed that area, completed most of the top, and looks like there is some cracking right here where it connects with this piece of the wall, and I'm thinking maybe I just don't have enough on there yet. And it's, well, no, I don't know, because that seems pretty thick right there. So I'll have to figure that out. But so far so good. And if this ends up not cracking and it hardens, which it pretty much has hardened all the way, I think I might just go ahead and try and plaster all of this and just see how it does. All right, so it's been over 24 hours now since I put this on, and there are no visible cracks that I can see where I plastered. There was a deep crack right here. That is good. And it's almost completely dry now. So I think that it will be good. All these other ones, obviously, putting it on a wet wall, that's recommended when you're putting the plaster on anyways, so it could just absorb into it better. But knowing that this is dry and can still form to it dry, I'm gonna just go ahead and start plastering this entire wall here, kind of like I did this one, and try and get some of this leveled out a little bit, and then I'll go to the cob wall, or the palatable cob. All right, it's been 2 days now, and that is dried completely. I mean, maybe for the most part. It still does feel a little cold, but this whole wall still feels cold even though it's dry. And that above has still not cracked. None of these other plaster splotches have cracked. So I'm gonna call it good that I can plaster on a dry wall. So this was kind of just an experiment for me. Maybe you got some value out of this. The main thing to take away that you need to always be experimenting with your plaster, with your wall whenever you are making it, because everybody's soil, everybody's clay, everybody's sand are going to be a little bit different. It's going to hold a little bit different mineral composition inside of it, so it can either be a little bit more stretchy, a little bit more breathable, be a little bit more crack resistant. It's all depending on your soil, your clay, and how you apply it to it. But maybe this can give you some ideas. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.